There is 8 potential equations for next week's 2023 NRL Grand Final. At just 8 o'clock next week, we are going to find out who are the NRL Premiers and who is the NRL runners-up falling short. There are 4 teams remaining in the competition, with the prelims starting on Friday. These are not my NRL tips, however they are my tips. If every team is to win the Premiership in 2023, here's how I think it'll go down.
To entertain house.
Let's start off with the Storm and the Warriors. So let's say the Storm beat the Panthers on Friday night and the Warriors beat the Broncos. So both the away sides advance to the grand final. Now, where would this game come down to? Obviously, Cameron Munster would need to step up, who has not been doing enough. I know he produced a match-winning try the other day, try assist, but not doing enough at all. Shaun Johnson's kicking game much better. Nick Meaney is X-factor at the moment for the Melbourne Storm, and Chance Nickel-Klokstad was fantastic. The Warriors have a poor record against the Melbourne Storm, but if these two sides meet in the grand final, then I would take the Warriors to win in a low-scoring contest, 16 points to 10. I think their goal kicking is better across the park, and I think that the Warriors have a bigger forward pack as well over the Melbourne Storm. If the Melbourne Storm were to beat the Warriors on grand final day, I think that some jitters would get to the New Zealand Warriors and they would lose the game 13+. I would have the Melbourne Storm winning over the Warriors 28 points to 10 if the Storm and the Warriors are next week's grand final. Next up, let's go to the Brisbane Broncos and the Melbourne Storm. So let's say the Storm defeat the Panthers on Friday night, but the Broncos end the New Zealand Warriors season, and the Broncos and Storm are playing in next week's grand final. Now, who do I think will win this game? Like the Warriors, will the Broncos have some jitters because of their poor record against the Storm, but they are a much more informed team. If the Broncos are to play the Storm in grand final day, then the Brisbane Broncos, for mine, will win the Premiership. They've shown that they can keep the Storm to nil in week 1 of the finals, and I think they would be a little bit too good for the Melbourne Storm. I don't think the Broncos would win 13+ again on grand final day, but I think that, the likes of Reece Walsh, Adam Reynolds, there is a lot to like about this side. I would have the Brisbane Broncos by 10 points, 22 points to 12 over the Melbourne Storm to win the game. If the Storm were to win, I think it would come to a high-scoring game and Melbourne scoring a kind of lucky try, just like the one against the Roosters, and being able to convert that try being a massive plus for them. So if the Broncos and Storm meet in the grand final and the Storm win the Premiership, I've got the Storm to win 24 points to 18. But out of these two sides right now, I would have the Brisbane Broncos to win 22 points to 12. Next up, the Penrith Panthers and the Warriors. So the Penrith Panthers defeat the Melbourne Storm on Friday night, and then the Warriors defeat the Brisbane Broncos at Suncorp Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Now, in this game, we saw the Panthers annihilate the Warriors without Shaun Johnson, but let's say they are at full strength. They don't have the home crowd, but they are going to have fans there, loud, get the noise around in the grand final. Penrith Panthers chasing a three-peat, which I think they would get. If the Panthers play the Warriors, I just don't see the Warriors edging past them enough, and I think it will be similar to that Parramatta game last year where teams start to think, they're in with a chance, but I think Penrith would be too good. And I think we saw that in week 1, even without Johnson. I think even with Johnson, they probably do lose by a decent margin. So I would have the Panthers to win over the Warriors 26 points to 12. And the only way that I would predict the Warriors to upset the Penrith Panthers to win the Premiership in 2023 would be, a penalty goal or kicking game being a little bit off for the conversions from the Penrith Panthers. So the Warriors would win 18 points to 16 in the grand final. But if it's Panthers-Warriors, I think Penrith are going to be way too good. Next up is obviously the grand final that a lot of people are picking. Now, don't forget we were picking, or I wasn't, but a lot of people were picking Panthers versus Cowboys last season, and Parramatta went to Townsville and got the job done. So could we see the Storm or the Warriors pull off an upset on Friday night? Well, I'm not here to talk about that. But let's imagine that the two favourites, the two home teams, the two rested teams, the Penrith Panthers and the Brisbane Broncos advanced to the grand final. Now, the Broncos beat Panthers 13 points to 12 earlier in the season. Round one they met, and they potentially could be the last game of the season. Reece Walsh up against Dylan Edwards, an awesome battle. Nathan Cleary up against Adam Reynolds. It's just a blueprint for a fantastic game. We saw the forward pack for the Panthers step up in the grand final, and we know that Carrigan and Haas, even Flegler, would have to step up in this big of a game. Do I think that the Broncos could beat the Panthers on grand final day? Well, I actually do, and I trust their defense to keep the Panthers scoring a low amount of points. So I would actually have the Broncos to win by 8 points. I would go the Broncos 18 to the Penrith Panthers 10. I think it'll be a very low scoring game. If the Broncos are to win the Premiership, they need to be defensive at their absolute best against Penrith. So if that right now, based on what I've seen, is my tip, I would be going the Broncos 18 points to 10. If the Penrith Panthers are to beat the Broncos, there is absolutely every chance that they win 13 plus. There's a chance that they beat the Storm by 40 and the Broncos by 20, just showing the dominance that they have. But I think that the Broncos' defense is too good. So if the Panthers win, I think again like Melbourne, it'll be from a converted try, and I would have the Panthers to win over the Brisbane Broncos 20 points to 14. There they are, all 8 equations for the grand final. My prelim tips will be coming soon. Can't wait to put those out for you. Guys, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. I will be at the Panthers versus Storm preliminary final, and of course I'll find a way to get to the 2023 NRL Grand Final next Sunday. I can't believe how close we are. There's your 8 equations. There's how I think every team can win the Premiership this year, and score predictions. Who do you think is going to win the Premiership? Let me know in the comments. If you want to predict every 8 equations score, feel free. Be a bit of fun. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys later.